from the very first moment, you're going to want to stay with me until the end of this story, because what began as a tale of rejection, heartbreak, and loneliness transformed into one of hope, redemption, and a love that conquered all odds. You'll see a woman, broken and dismissed by those who judged her for carrying the most precious gift of all, her child. And you'll meet a cowboy who had everything money could buy, yet whose heart ached with emptiness. The way their paths collided will leave you shaken, inspired, and maybe even in tears. This is not just a story about finding love, it's about finding courage when the world turns its back on you. So lean in, because by the end, you'll understand why love truly does conquer everything. Clara Bennett was only 24 when she stepped off the stagecoach, her baby boy cradled against her chest. Dust swirled around her boots as she adjusted the worn shawl over her shoulders. She had traveled miles across harsh country roads, answering the call of a man she had never met. A mail-order bride ad had given her hope after losing nearly everything. The man who had paid for her journey promised stability, a home, and perhaps even love. Clara was desperate to believe in new beginnings, not just for herself, but for the small life she carried in her arms. Her late husband, a kind farmer, had been taken too soon by fever, and since then, no one had looked at Clara without pity or scorn. All she wanted was a chance to build a future for her little boy, Samuel, but hope shattered quickly. When she arrived at the meeting spot, her supposed husband-to-be, a tall, broad man with a sharp hat pulled low over his brow, looked at her with disgust. His eyes, hard as steel, flicked from Clara's face down to the baby in her arms. "You didn't say you were bringing baggage," he muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Clara's heart sank as whispers rippled among the bystanders. The man spit in the dirt and shook his head. "I paid for a wife, not a woman with another man's brat." He turned his back without another word, mounted his horse, and rode off, leaving Clara humiliated, stranded, and alone with nowhere to go. Clara clutched Samuel tighter, trying to fight back the sting of tears. Rejection was a pain she thought she'd already known well, but this cut deeper. She had gambled everything on this chance, and now it felt like the world had slammed the door in her face. The small town seemed to swallow her up with its judgmental stares. She wanted to vanish, but all she could do was press forward, step by step, praying someone would show her mercy. That's when James Callahan saw her. From across the busy street, he had been watching. A wealthy rancher, James was known throughout the West as a man with acres of land, cattle as far as the eye could see, and a fortune few could rival. Yet behind the fine clothes and the polished boots lived a man burdened by loneliness. Years of prosperity had given him everything except a family. His wife had died in childbirth years earlier, and though women admired his wealth, none ever touched his heart. He had learned to live with the silence of his big, empty home, filling it with work and long rides across the open plains. Something about Clara stopped him cold. Perhaps it was the way she stood tall even after being humiliated, or the fierce way she held her baby close, shielding him from the cruelty of the world. James felt a pull deep inside, something he hadn't felt in years. Against all logic, he crossed the street and tipped his hat. "Ma'am," he said gently, "looks like you could use a friend." Clara blinked, startled by the kindness in his tone. For days that followed, James extended small gestures of help. A warm meal at the inn. A place to rest her weary feet. Even a ride back to his ranch when she had no other shelter. Clara resisted at first, wary of accepting charity, but Samuel's tiny cries reminded her she couldn't afford pride. Slowly, trust began to build between them. At the ranch, Clara found herself in awe. The wide fields, the horses running free, the strong wooden fences, it was a kingdom of its own. Yet James never carried himself as a king. Instead, he was patient, thoughtful, and attentive. He noticed the way Samuel gripped his finger with surprising strength and how Clara's eyes lit up when she spoke of her late husband's kindness. In turn, Clara began to see past James's wealth and into his heart, a man who had known loss just as she had, but the road to love was never simple. Town gossip spread quickly. Whispers accused Clara of being nothing but a gold digger, a desperate widow clinging to a rich man. Others told James he was a fool for taking in damaged goods. Their cruel words threatened to wedge doubt between them. Clara, ashamed, even considered leaving one night, thinking Samuel deserved better than a life where people mocked them. Yet James stopped her. He stood tall in the moonlight, eyes fierce with conviction. "Clara, don't you dare run from me. I don't care what they say. You and that boy, you belong here, with me." That was the turning point. James didn't just accept Clara and Samuel, he embraced them. He began teaching Samuel to sit on a saddle, laughing as the toddler's tiny hands clung to the reins. He gave Clara space to heal but also showed her what it meant to be cherished again. Slowly, love grew steady, patient, and unshakable. The wedding was small, held under the open sky, with only a few close friends who believed in them. Clara wore a simple dress, and Samuel, now a little older, toddled down the aisle holding James's hand. As James spoke his vows, he promised not only to love Clara for the rest of his days but to raise Samuel as his own son. Tears streamed down Clara's face, not from sadness but from the overwhelming realization that she had found what she had been searching for all along: a home, a family, and a love that looked past her scars. In time, the town's whispers faded. People saw the way James adored Clara and the boy, the way their laughter echoed across the ranch, and they could no longer deny the truth. This was no charity, no arrangement of convenience. This was love in its purest, fiercest form. And it was stronger than judgment, stronger than loneliness, stronger than the pain of the past. So if you've stayed with me until now, here's the message I want you to take to heart. Sometimes life will cast you aside, sometimes people will judge you unfairly, but true love, the kind that sees your worth even when others don't, will always find a way. Clara thought she had been rejected forever, but in the arms of a lonely cowboy, she discovered that rejection was only the doorway to a greater destiny, and that's why this story is remembered in the West even today, not because of James's riches or Clara's struggles, but because they prove to everyone that love can take the most broken pieces of our lives and turn them into something whole, something beautiful, something eternal.